and women overwhelmingly said that they were discouraged by their family, by their friends, by faculty members. So not only we are not encouraged, but we are also discouraged.
Welcome to the Rhinoplasty podcast with me, Dr. Cameron McIntosh. For the month of April, we are interviewing the leading ladies in rhinoplasty, thanks to an amazing sponsorship from Pentax Loops. So if you want to get a cool discount on the Pentax Loops, you better listen to the end of this message, because right at the end of the podcast, we're going to give you the link, and then you'll be able to get hold of hopefully a good price on some of the best loops that are on the market. So today I have somebody who is a great inspiration, not just to ladies around the world, but to men around the world as well. She's a mother, a wife, a prolific author, a board member of the Evidence-Based Research and Rhinoplasty Group, a PhD, a facial plastic surgeon. Philio Lekakis, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a huge honor to be with you, Cameron. Thank you for inviting me. And which I want to ask you before you ask me what continent I represent, because I know that my colleagues that you have also invited come from different continents.
Sure. Well, it's difficult. I mean, you were born in Australia. You did your ENT.
Right, I'm an Aussie. I bet you didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that. But you're also a Greek, and you did facial plastics in the UK. You ended up going to the US. Now you live in Brussels. Yeah. So I think you represent the ladies. That's what I'd like you to represent.
Thank you. It's a massive honor.
Yeah. Awesome. So, Philia, let's kick this thing off. Okay. So you are in this rhinoplasty world. How did you become such a successful rhinoplasty surgeon? What started this little dream of yours off?
Yeah, I certainly did not dream of becoming a rhinoplasty surgeon when I qualified medicine. I was very much convinced that surgery is the thing for me. And you know that you take this decision during the last couple of years in medical school. Proud that I have qualified medicine at the University of Patras, with Patras being the third largest city in Greece after Athens and Thessaloniki. And I started surgical training in Athens. I did a couple of years of general surgery and a bit of ENT in a military hospital in Athens. But I took very early on and very consciously the decision to leave Greece and to go to England with the desire to become an above average ENT surgeon. I was utterly convinced that, the surgical training in England was so good. And in fact, it's very well known that England has a very solid surgical training. But yeah, this what motivated me to leave my country early on, actually. And then, yeah, I mean, one job led to the other. Initially, I was thinking more of otology, I must admit, but finally the nose won me over. I was very lucky to do a big number of rhinoplasties during my training, and extremely honored to be awarded with the European Academy of Facial Plastics, Plastic Surgery Fellowship at some point. That gave me the opportunity to go even further, to go abroad, to visit US, to spent 3 months in California, Sacramento, UC Davis with Jonathan Sykes at the time. And I met Travis, of course, back in those days. And I did 6 months in London and also 6 months in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. So that was all the formal training, which was, of course, followed by the exam, the American board exam.
Okay, well, yeah, I also said that it's a very difficult exam. Within qualified as a facial plastic surgeon, how much other facial plastic surgery are you doing apart from rhinoplasty?
Well, I'm doing autoplasties, I'm doing skin cancer and reconstruction, some trauma, I'm doing scar revisions, the facial plastic surgery has an enormous field. There is a big part of my practice is also the non-surgical rejuvenation acts. That's also part of the curriculum. I enjoy it all.
Okay, so now I want to steer us away a little bit from. We're going to come back to the rhinoplasty side of things. What do you do when you're not doing rhinoplasty?
So I love yoga. I practice for 5 years now, so I'm relatively new into this world. I love hot yoga, and that's hard to practice now because of the COVID situation and the pandemic. But, imagine practicing yoga in a heated room in a temperature between 37 and 40 Celsius. So you stretch and you exercise muscles that you've forgotten they existed, and it's actually quite therapeutic. There is a meditation part in it. It's really, really wonderful. I can't describe it. It's a wonderful feeling when you have it done. It's challenging, but hey, we're rhinoplasty surgeons. We like the challenge, that's for sure.
So this challenge, tell me, how do you juggle being a mom, wife, and rhinoplasty surgeon at the same time?
Yeah, with difficulty and with loads of guilt. So, I mean, I think that's a very known feeling to women that have loads of responsibility at work and spend long days at work. So I think I'm used to it now. My family is also used to it. But yeah, I think what's important is for all women out there that are considering a career in surgery in general, because I don't think there is a big difference between surgical specialties, is to remember that this is feasible. Because one of the difficulties that women have is the lack of role models and the lack of mentorship. There aren't many people around to not take you from the hand, but say to you, look at you in the eye and say to you, you can do it. It's difficult, but it's not impossible. And I think that if I can pass a message on today, it would be brilliant if I can pass on that message to younger colleagues.
So, Philia, what have been some of the struggles in being a woman in rhinoplasty for you?
Well, I think it's the same for all. We are the minority, and it's a male-dominated profession. Of course, it's not the only profession that's like that. A lot of other professions are like that. It's a competitive profession, and it's tough for all. It's tough for men, and it's tough for women. But women remain the minority. If you look at studies, women occupy less than a quarter in all surgical specialties. Again, the lack of role model, the lack of mentorship it does actually play a role. There was a study done a couple of years ago at Harvard where they gave a questionnaire to medical students, asking them their intentions to enter surgical specialties, and also what they found was the advice from their environment, and And women overwhelmingly said that they were discouraged by their family, by their friends, by faculty members. So not only we are not encouraged, but we are also discouraged. And I think that a lot of that is probably a little bit gender biased.
So what's interesting for me is that instead of like your reaction to this is, I'm just going to go and do a PhD. I'm like, I don't think there's another woman on this planet who's a facial plastic surgeon and has done a PhD. I just think that's such a great answer. So talk to me about how you did that.
Yeah, the truth is that, again, I was extremely lucky. I've landed in Belgium for family reasons. It's 8 years now ago. And I was given this opportunity, and I thought, this is great. In fact, in the beginning, I wasn't really convinced that this was going to. I wasn't convinced that I was going to like it that much. I thought it's an opportunity. I'm sure it'll bring me something, and then I ended up loving it. I ended up. And I do strongly believe that a woman can balance an academic surgical career and a family life. It's feasible. And hey, what an incredible journey that was. First of all, Leven has this amazing, team of incredible minds and individuals. And I must admit now, because we're talking about women, I have to mention Valerie Picavet, a colleague of mine who actually laid the work for me to take over and continue. And I owe a lot to Valerie, and I thank her from the bottom of my heart. She's a great colleague. She's actually practicing. She's also a rhinoplasty surgeon. She's practicing in Germany these days. But we have loads of other incredible women in Leuven. There is Laura van Herven, who's more into the rhinology part, and of course the one and only Peter Hellings, who's the incredible visionary and individual that has guided us all into this academic path. Again, as you know, I managed to complete that last year. But it was, I would advise anybody who's passionate about what they do to do a PhD. Honestly, I significantly think that this is an incredible opportunity that has a lot of positive aspects.
And tell us a little bit more about your PhD. For the listeners who don't know about what your topic was, and I mean, I was there listening to your defense. We had to do it through Zoom. But share us about what it was and what have you gotten out of it?
Yeah, so essentially it was, just to keep it very simple, was a little bit how 3D technology can shape up the rhinoplasty world and can change and actually help us become better rhinoplasty surgeons. That's in a nutshell, that's what it was. And a lot of the studies I was involved with had to do with the preoperative consultation. So we looked into computer simulation, as you know, and how that benefits patients and surgeons. We looked into how 3D simulation carries an added value in comparison to 2D. Then we looked into 3D printing, which was also a very unique study, and it all started in Versailles. I went to this meeting in 2016, I believe it was. It was the first international plastic meeting, and oh my God, what a meeting that was. And I got so much inspiration out of that meeting. And in fact, it was there when I, apart from rubbing shoulders with all the glitterati of rhinoplasty, I had this incredible opportunity to meet a representative of the company that was manufacturing these 3D printing models, and I thought, that's it. I really need to work on that and make it part of this PhD. And after that, I must admit, it was a long road, because one of the things it's difficult is the collaboration between industry and academia. And I wish things are a little bit easier on that front, because in rhinoplasty, in facial plastic surgery, this is the driving force for developments. It's not work in the laboratory so much, but it's more work that has to do with the industry. So yeah, I mean, it happened. I mean, I'm incredibly proud.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. And funny enough, thinking about that same Versailles meeting, that is where everything started for us in South Africa, because it was the first time I met Stuart Geldenhuys and Peter Scott. And then from there, introduced me to Rod Roerick, who then invited me to get to Dallas, who then said to me, I've got to start a society in South Africa. And that's what's happened. And now we're sitting here doing a podcast. It's great, eh?
Yeah, I mean, there's a great memories, and what one event can trigger, it's really incredible if you can take it on and really drive it forward, how far you can go with an idea. Absolutely.
So, Philia, we started our podcast series with three guys from the Evidence-Based Research and Rhinoplasty group. Now, you're also a board member there.
That's right.
Tell me a little bit about more what it's been like. I love being on this group. I'm learning so much on the Telegram group and the discussions, etc. It's really good, and it's it's like a non-egotistical group, which is great. These people aren't trying to put their best results up. They're just trying to teach people.
Isn't it amazing? I mean, I learned so much. Like you. I mean, we all learn. That's the amazing thing. We kind of exchange ideas and as you know, articles and so on. And we really try to move this incredible field that we're all passionate about forward. And this is what makes it so unique. And in fact, I remember with Sam Most, when you interviewed him, he was saying, we're just trying to move really FPS out of this black sheep of otolaryngology kind of phase. And it's true. If we have evidence, we are all very proud and we know that we can deliver better care to our patients. It's an incredible group. I agree with you. I enjoy every minute in it. I learn so much. And I think it's now very evident that only with evidence we can move forward, because otherwise the only statement we can deliver is in my hands.
Yeah. No. Okay, so Philio, now listen, I can't keep you away from being a teacher. So now's your chance to give us some, for all the listeners all around the world. You can share your screen, and I'm going to remind you, not everyone can necessarily watch on YouTube, but it is going out on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all over the place. So when you are talking and showing us this, your PowerPoints, please just be mindful of speaking it so that somebody who can't necessarily see it will be able to understand what you're saying.
Okay, let's try this. And okay, so great. So you know that this was the cover of my PhD. I put it as a first slide because this was really, for me, the first thing that introduced me into this world of 3D technology in rhinoplasty. And technology has so much revolutionized our lives because of the pandemic, and we all function so much differently because of that. So technology is actually a very good thing, and 3D technology in rhinoplasty, with a number of publications, have shown that has an added value. This is the incredible meeting in Versailles, and this is me with my 3D printing models that I got that day. And this was an incredible study that we did, was the last leg of the PhD, we can say. But again, very privileged to be part of the Science and Research Committee of the Rhinoplasty Society of Europe, that gave me the opportunity to meet Martin Haug, Professor Martin Haug, a plastic surgeon in Basel University in Switzerland. And again, I'm part of the outcomes research group from the European Academy of Facial Plastic Surgery. And of course, the evidence-based rhinoplasty and research group that we have already discussed. So with Martin, I had the opportunity to discuss at length the option, the possibility of doing a study involving 3D tissue engineering cartilage for rhinoplasty patient. And this incredible idea has actually been already demonstrated that it works for skin cancer patients in the nose and reconstruction. So as you see here, this was a study that Martin Haug and even Martin, the head of the 3D tissue engineering lab in Basel, have already done and published at the Lancet. So the big question now is whether we can actually do that for rhinoplasty patients. And I'm sure you and all of us in rhinoplasty have met individuals that they have significant functional problems, but because of their age, their comorbidities, they are not very good candidates to harvest rib and do all sorts of structural grafting and correct their problems. So I think this was the question, the big question that we want to put forward and into test and were looking into developing a phase 1 trial nose to nose with 3D tissue engineering. And I do have an intraoperative picture to share with you. This is a gentleman that I operated not so long ago. He was obese. He had ischemic cardiac disease. He couldn't be under general anesthetic for a long time. He, couldn't afford to have rib harvesting with the considering the postoperative pain and the potential complications. And he had an incredible alar collapse and incompetence at the level of the external nasal valve. So I used PDS foil and I have tailored that to create, to imitate alar strut grafting. And I tried to correct his problem, and he was delighted with the results. So the big question is whether we can actually take a little piece of his septum, create in the lab 3D tissue engineered cartilage, and use it to structurally correct the functional problems that some of our patients may have, and presenting surgical challenge to correct it in a standard way. And that's the end of my talk.
That's great. So, Philia, this is very interesting because there's been quite a few talks about, or there's research about trying to actually construct cartilage, and it's not that easy. Do you think we're going to be able to get to the point in the future where a patient will be able to actually, they can almost choose their nose, and we can tailor make a nose for them by designing cartilage for that specific patient?
Is your question involving aesthetic concerns?
Yes, both aesthetic and functional.
Yeah, because I think that's far more complicated. I was referring more to the idea of being able to create grafting material for individuals that it's very difficult to get into harvest because of their profile. Sometimes it's their age. Don't forget that the rib gets calcified. Sometimes is as the individual the patient I just showed, the comorbidities that will not allow you a very lengthy procedure. But aesthetics, it's a different matter. In a way, this, if we manage to prove that, I think it will be exceptionally advantageous, not only for rhinoplasty but for all head and neck surgery, because if you can provide 3D tissue engineered cartilage for tympanoplasties or for any other matter in the head and neck, then that on its own have a huge benefit for mankind. So, it's, I think rhinoplasty, let's not forget there is a significant functional component. For the aesthetic component, equally, it might have a place. It's a nice question. I haven't thought of it. If we perhaps, we need to involve the 3D bioprinters and get precise, measured pieces of grafts that will help us provide a nose. But let's not forget, and that was actually, I was honored enough to be asked to write a commentary on a publication recently in Aesthetic Surgery Journal, and it was a group of surgeons that wrote about. In fact, they put an enormous amount of effort to produce a 3D software, which is also free. It's available for people to use in order to simulate noses. And I think the idea behind all this is that it's great, but there are limitations, and we should always stick to the basic rule of under promise and over deliver. I think this is something that in rhinoplasty goes hand in glove, and we shouldn't ever be practicing without this in mind.
No, I agree. Okay, so Philia, I don't want to box you in, but there's this part I want to chat to you about that you've spoken many times, and I think you're one of the kind of world authorities on photography and rhinoplasty. And I want to ask you about a few things about it. There's morphing beforehand. In other words, and I often get questions on the different groups as to what is the best camera system to use, firstly. Secondly, the kind of software to use. And then possibly a third talk, or part of the talk, is to ask you about intraoperative photographs. So maybe to kick it off from my side, I've tried both having a digital SLR with flashes, and then these photographs are taken and they're used on the computer, and there's different software programs you can use. On the other hand, I've been using the Vectra system, which automatically takes photos and makes them 3D. So they're quite different, the two. I'd love to hear your comments about this.
Yeah, I use both, and I use both because in the meetings and between surgeons, we still communicate when we present a lot with 2D photography, and we have learned to use them. 3D has certain advantages, and I have seen that not only with the studies, not only that the patients love it and they see better, they enjoy the experience more, they understand better, they learn better about themselves and their anatomy, but has certain benefits for the surgeon. That doesn't mean that everybody is obliged to get a 3D system. Still a little bit pricey. I am convinced that this will go down in time, because that's what happens with technology that moves so fast. The price will go down. But I think it's very important to remember that visual cues are there not to promote ourselves. Visual cues are there to help us communicate better. We need to build rapport, and we are not all of us good communicators. We might be good surgeons, but communication is not something we are taught. And we need all of us to have good sixth sense, and we're not all good at it. In fact, we learn by experience, which means by making mistakes. And that's why rhinoplasty is such a sophisticated procedure. We need analysis. And how can you do analysis? Sometimes patients come and they need XYZ on the face. It's difficult. Are you going to stare at them for how long? So I take pictures immediately. The minute they come in, I take pictures immediately. And then we comment on their pictures. And I say, look at your facial asymmetry. Really? I have facial asymmetry? Nobody told me. Well, can I show you? And then even the models that they kind of stroke a lot of criticism as, are you going to give the models, and shall we give the models, and do we not give the models? Yeah, the models are hugely educational tools. I actually use my own model because I had the opportunity to produce one, and I say, look, this is what it means to have a supratip break. They need to understand. And do you like this? And how would you? We need to communicate. We need to be aligned. So it's all about communication. Whether you do it in 2D or 3D, I don't think it matters terribly. Nobody is obliged to use 3D tools. If you have it, it's certainly a luxury nowadays. There is an added value. We have proven that. But I think it's important that you get photography as part of your consult the minute the patient walks in, not before the operation, and certainly not by getting your mobile out and photographing them, because you do them a disservice to yourself as well. My results improved the minute my photography improved. Well, these things go in parallel. So I know it sounds a little bit, as an exaggerated statement, but it helps you identify things that you wouldn't be able to identify. So you become a better surgeon out of good photography. There is no doubt. I'm sorry, I kind
No,
of
that's
took a
right.
long
But
answer here and not sure whether I answered all the
no,
points.
that's good. The second thing is what I find is if I've got a resident or a fellow who wants to come and watch or learn something with rhinoplasty, the first thing I do is I give them the camera and I say to them, take the photographs during the operation. Because
Absolutely.
a couple of years ago, Miguel said to me in his best Portuguese, he said, Cameron, if you don't take photographs, you didn't do the operation. And I was like, wow. And it's very true because it's for various reasons. I mean, we need to have records. We can see what we actually did. We can see what our mistakes were, etc. But I think that intraoperative photographs is so important.
Absolutely. And you learn so much when you go back and see them and watch them and say, oh, really? I did that? And sometimes, let's face it, you do a long operation and you don't exactly forget, but when you write things down, if you only write things down, if you write the protocol, well, if you go back a year later, these words will say nothing to you or very little. But if you have photographs, and even better, if you have videos of it, then you immediately understand what you did. These visual cues intraoperatively play the same role. And that's why I think how you record if you remember, we had this incredible webinar from the EFPS where Dean Toriomi and Baris Chakir gave a talk about video recording. And how you actually keep a protocol, an operation protocol. And in rhinoplasty, it's so important you have, again, visual cues for that. Incredibly, for your own improvement, for medical legal reasons, for if you want to go back and do something else. Incredibly important.
So give us some tips, as somebody who's listening, what kind of camera do they need to get and flash to be able to take photographs intraoperatively?
Actually, currently I'm using I have a Sony HD camera that I must admit I took the expensive option and kind of called. I have a professional photographer that comes with me when I need, and he takes videos and then he edits, and I say, from that minute to that minute I want a short video, or from that minute to that minute. That's an expensive solution, and it's not very surgeon friendly. I recently purchased a system that I have a camera on my headlight, and that allows me to take intraoperative pictures even when I'm doing more hidden work like septal work. And that works very well. But I must admit that I haven't found the best solution to say to your audience, this is what you should do. It's a little bit of a trial and error phase for me. I want to try and have a camera that is with my satellite light, because I think that will give me more options. So when you work on the tip, you get nice, or on the dorsum, on the open approach. But the camera on the head, it also gives you more options to take photographs when this camera that's on the satellite is not able to capture what you're doing. So there's no only one solution, I think, and it's a difficult one. I must admit, once I get the setup right, I'll make a new presentation and share it with everybody. But it's not easy.
So you know what I've been doing now is, so my photographer might take 100 or 200 photographs during the operation. And then what we do is for every single patient at my 1 week follow-up, I take them through a PowerPoint slideshow of about 20 photographs of the steps of the operation. 99 out of 100 patients absolutely love it because they actually get to see what we did in the operation. And then we'd print it out as a PDF and email it to them if they want it. I don't know if you ever do that.
Yes, Oh, I have this. I have a similar experience, of course, because I consent them for that. I have made my own consent form where I explain, and they need to either say that they authorize me or they don't authorize me to actually video the surgery. So I have that in the records. Otherwise, I don't do much. And okay, I think to take a picture is legitimate, but then again, to film parts of the operation, I do get a consent form, so I'm all fine. And then because I discussed that in advance, I have basically, yeah, can I have a video? Can I see this? I said, are you sure you want to see your eyes open? Yeah, I'll be fine. And they love it, as you said. I mean, not everybody is like that. The younger they are, I must admit, more towards millennia, the more keen they are for the videos. It's a generation thing.
Philia, I mean, okay, so let's try and wrap a few things up here. What's the favorite thing for you about rhinoplasty?
Oof, I love it all. It's as I said, I like the challenge. I like the sophistication of it. I like that it's a new puzzle every time. No nose is like the previous one. Yeah, and I do like pushing the envelope all the time. So yeah, I love it all intraoperatively, but also in the consultation, because it's you try to figure out whether this you love the nose, but do you really want to operate the individual? So it's like a little bit of a detective work. Is this individual an okay individual to operate? So that's also a challenge. And post-operatively, if they have issues, you need to kind of be very sympathetic to them. And that's why I believe women are very good in rhinoplasty and also in leadership positions, because look at women. What are they? They are wives, they are sisters, they are mothers, that they embrace their families with empathy, with care, with commitment, with courage, with understanding, with respect. And what are these attributes? Are qualities of leadership. So I'm sure women make, inspirational and wonderful leaders. But all they need to know is that they just need to keep going, and despite the defeats, to never be defeated.
For sure. Philia, that's beautiful, man. I was thinking, how can I get another question to ask you? But you've just nailed it, man. Sure. Thank you very much. Yeah.
It's a pleasure, and thank you for your great mind and all the things you are doing to get, to get us even more forward in rhinoplasty, and all this incredible communication and learning we had since about a year ago now. It just shows us that if there is a will, there is a way. So thank you, Cameron, for all you've done.
No, well, and for those people who've actually listened all the way to the end of the podcast and heard those inspirational words, now I can tell you what to do to get a good deal on these very cool new Pentax loops. So the cool thing about the Pentax loops is that they give you a wide field of view, but also they save your neck. And Daniel Simon loves talking about looking after your neck in rhinoplasty. So they actually allow you to, instead of bending your neck down, you can look forward and through them. So you need to go to www.pentaxloops.com. So that is pentaxloupes.com. Send them an email. Tell them that you listen to the Rhinoplasty podcast with Philio Lekakis, and wait and see what deal you can get from them. So guys, that brings us to the end of this show. Philio, thank you so much for being part of this. Thank you for this month of the leading ladies in rhinoplasty. And I just want to wish you the best. I don't know what more to say to you. Like, you, board member of evidence-based rhinoplasty, PhD, mom. It's fantastic. And I know that this message is for the ladies, but there are so many men out there that are also inspired by what you do. So thank you for that. And I genuinely, it's a privilege to have you as a colleague and a friend.
Thank you, Cameron. The pleasure is mine.